fiery flyweights in need of a couple of wins. Coming up this weekend, we have Mexico's own Pitbull. Edgar Chairez is going to be taking on Miojo, Daniel Lacerda. You might see it out there, Daniel Da Silva, and your friends might tell you, hey, everybody from Shoot the Box Diego Lima, they win these days.
No, your friends are telling you, Craig, he's lost 4 straight. Put it to rest. Why are we still talking about him?
Well, they're really talking about Shoot the Box like it's Danny Cage's Monster Factory, but all I know is where the comparisons stop at Shoot the Box is the fact that, yeah, he might dye his hair blonde, and yeah, he might have pictures on his Instagram with Charles Oliveira, but for Daniel Lacerda, he's had 4 fights in the UFC. I can break him down really easily.
How'd they go for him, Craig?
Finished in all 4 of them, but gosh darn it, they've been fun. And his last time out, he had CJ Vergara on skates in the first round of their matchup. I counted 4 knockdowns. The UFC officially counted 2. Lacerda had Vergara running the opposite way. And then in the second round, Vergara was able to get the fight down to the mat. There was a point where Lacerda had him in a bit of a calf slicer like he was Brett Johns. But then Vergara was able to spin out of the position, get on top, and Lacerda wasn't able to play jiu-jitsu for any longer. You saw a lot of big elbows, a lot of big shots from Vergara, and the fight was over. So it was one of those unique 2-round fight of the nights, but for Lacerda, it's been a wild run. He's able to drop Jeff Molina early in their fight, only for Molina to rally back. He's able to get the fight down to the mat against Francisco Figueiredo, and then that other Figueiredo took his leg home with him in a knee bar. He was also able to go there against Victor Altamirano, drop him early, springboards back up, and then Altamirano drops Lacerda, who had his hands way out and just ate that punishment that was coming down against Altamirano. So Lacerda gets this opportunity to right some wrongs in this fight, but as fun as he is, boy, he's fast and loose with his style.
This is what Daniel Lacerda reminds me of. You know those kids in like 4th, 5th, 6th grade who play sports and they're amazing? Like way too good at that age to be at that level. But then they start to get older and they just kind of rely on those exact same things that made them great when they were younger. But they didn't add the other components to their game. Daniel Lacerda reminds me a lot of those kids because he does. Can he finish fights in the feet? Yes. Can he finish fights in the mat? Yes. And if you just look at a snapshot of everything he does, you're probably thinking, wow, this guy's a very talented fighter. But once you look for all the gaps in between the main skill sets of MMA, the things that aren't just pure wrestling, the things that aren't pure kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, Daniel Lacerda does miss a lot of those components to his game. And that's why, even though he is on this 4-fight losing streak, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have an easy time predicting his fights because every single one of those fights has had a flash where, hey, he did look better than I probably thought he was going to. And I'm glad you bring up the last performance because I'd completely written him off that last time out. I'm like, oh, CJ Vergara's going to dust him. And then he still gives you a reason to believe in Daniel Lacerda. And that's why no matter who he fights, whether it's a box full of pool noodles at a Walmart or some entry-level UFC fighter, he could easily win a $50K bonus based off it.
Spinning wheel kick was the first knockdown. Straight left was the second. The third knockdown, another spinning wheel kick, and the next one was a flurry of punches. And I counted 4 knockdowns. Maybe the last one was a wobble against Vergara. But Lacerda is one of those guys where he's won all 4 of these fights in the first 30 seconds, and then after that, other things have happened to cause him to lose them by finish. And if you go back and watch Lacerda fight on the regional scene before he was in the UFC, it was a lot of kind of similar game
When he gets tired, do you think he says like, oh, this never happens?
Oh boy, my conditioning, yikes. But when you look at Lacerda, all the training partners in the world, you saw a very young... It was weird when the promotion yesterday, and yesterday for us was UFC 293, they go, well, Lipe Daytona, he turns 23 tomorrow. So on the graphic, they show him as 23, but you're still 22 though. But Lipe Daytona comes in, has a fight of the night against a number 10 ranked Manel Kopp. We'll see if Lacerda can try and pick up some of that magic. When you look at a guy like Edgar Chairez, he's one of those really, really interesting fighters. The former combate, you can see it right there. Flyweight champ, it's Edgar Chairez. And if you consider this matchup, Matt, for Chairez, it's an awesome opportunity to be able to fight on a card like this with a lot of your teammates. He's an Entram gym guy. Brandon Moreno spent a lot of time there. He's kind of all over the place for his camps, but you also have Jasmine Jauregui on this card. And if you go down through the performances, you already recognize him from Dana White's Contender Series. He did lose to Clayton Carpenter, but if you watch the first round of that fight, he gave Clayton Carpenter everything he could handle in that first round. Chairez won the first, and the rest of the fight was very competitive. But you watch a guy like Chairez, when he's striking, he's all over the map. He can spin kick like the best of them inside of a phone booth. His hip flexibility is insane to throw.
Yeah.
Some of the kicks that he throws, but the spin back elbows as well. So Chairez definitely posed a tough test.
For Edgar, I hope you appreciate this. He reminds me of a sparkler. It was recently Canada Day. You had an odd relationship with sparklers. I feel like you got burned by them every single year.
Always grab the end of them.
But that's what I mean. So you would know better than anybody. Once you light a sparkler, can you get it to stop? Not really. And for Edgar Chairez, he does fight a little bit
in water.
Oh, I guess you can put it in water, but he does fight a little bit like a sparkler. Once he gets going, it is very difficult to slow that momentum and slow that pace.
Now, when we look at a guy like Edgar Chairez, his last time out, Fury FC 55, he's going out there and he's taking on a decent level of competition. But if you do the kind of the deep dive on the record, all 10 of the Chairez wins are by finish. The combined opponent record, 56, 29, and 1. But I mean, the last couple, it was a little bit chintzy.
So he's got a 5th round loss. He's got decision losses. Like when Edgar is forced to really elongate his game and forced to become that same fighter that he is in those first initial bursts, it is really difficult for him to elongate that success.
And I mean, with Fury, you had a pre-main event promo in cage from Brandon Moreno on Dana White's Contender Series as they're making the walk. Chairez has Moreno in his corner, and there's also Brandon Moreno in a tiny screen giving a breakdown of Edgar Chairez. So a lot of kind of support there from the champ. But my biggest part about this was, Matt, the fight that he had against Vasquez, where poor Frank Collazo, and I'll put it up there, that was the most disgusting non-finish call I've ever seen in my life. And Chairez was struggling in that fight quite a bit. Like, you could have had a few of the rounds very close, but in that, once they got to the title rounds or the championship rounds, it was that triangle choke that was synced in where the guy, Vasquez, is completely out. The referee doesn't see it. The commentators are yelling, stop the fight, stop the fight. And then he goes for an armbar, dislocates his opponent's elbow, and then finally Vasquez wakes himself up and taps out of it. It was wild to see that. Again, you can go back and watch some of the Combate fights, the UWC fights for Chairez. The tape is readily available. And Chairez in that debut against Tatsuro Taira. 2nd round, 3rd round, struggle with the grappling. 1st round, I don't normally go by the numbers. However, he was 27 of 30 on his significant strikes. That's a massive percentage. He was able to really land a nice leg kick that kind of dropped for a quick second Taira. And then when Taira came in close in the phone booth, as I said about Chairez, it was a short left hand. That dropped Tatsuro Taira in that 1st round. So for Chairez, he was able to go out there and show a little bit in that matchup. But again, that fight that he took was on a week and a half's notice at a catch weight of 130 pounds against one of the hottest prospects in this division. Chairez is one of those fighters. We've likened him to a little bit of a Chepe Mariscal, where Chairez fought good fighters before coming into the UFC. He didn't win all of those fights. You don't get to 10-5 by doing everything the right way. But for Chairez, another good opportunity to kind of get back on the horse in this fight.
And he does have great grappling in his own right. I know we didn't get to see that the last time out against Taira, but guess what? Tatsuro is really, really, really good at this stage of his career, and that is the one X factor that he brings into this division. So I do expect Chairez to have a lot more success with his own grappling, especially in this matchup, because if Lacerda does just try to march forward, not even march forward, just blitz forward wildly, it's going to leave those openings for him to not only get caught by counters on the feet, but also for Chairez to go underneath, get the hips, and go for the takedown. Because if he's able to get that top position on Lacerda, I know Lacerda can be squirrely off the back. I don't know if it's going to be enough, though, to actually put Edgar in compromising positions to where he won't be convinced that, hey, I can just keep on getting these takedowns over and over again, because he's got a great submission repertoire in his own back pocket.
I think this fight's going to go this way. These two guys are going to go rock'em sock'em robots, and one of the two is going to drop. I have a really hard time offering you a prediction in this fight because Edgar Chairez is more than a 2-1 favorite in this matchup, and not all 4-fight finish losing streaks are created equal. This isn't BJ Penn taking on Yair Rodriguez. We have a look at the votes over on Topology, Matt. Surprise us there to you. I'm going to say over under 70% Chairez.
I'll say over.
I'm going to say over. It is over. 783 total votes, 89% Chairez, 60% by knockout for the 11% that have Lacerda, 62% by knockout. So again, I think it's whoever drops first is going to be the one that might lose it, even though we could have a multiple knockdown type situation. Maybe it's like a Dan Hardy, Carlos Condit, 2 hooks land, and whoever gets up, gets up. But Yeah, like I said, I have a hard time trying to offer you a pick in this fight.
You know what I'm never gonna do, though? Pick a guy who's lost 4 straight fights by stoppage. Guess it's just a rule I have, you know? If you've been stopped in 4 straight fights, I'm probably not gonna pick you to get off the horse in your next one. So, Lacerda, again, I can't say it enough times. He's gonna make this fight exciting, win, lose, or draw. I just don't see it being a win or a draw, so that's why I have Edgar in the matchup.
We'll see if a mass bulk order of blonde hair dye is able to pull out the victory this time, or if Daniel Lacerda is the second coming of one of his teammates that everybody forgets, Thomas Almeida. It was bright until it wasn't, Matt. Both of us, I'm also going with Edgar Chairez in the matchup. It's hard to pick a guy on a 4-fight losing streak to win, but he's got a shot in this one, so let us know who you have down below in the comments section. Some big-time fights on the card. Main event's a title fight on a fight night at T-Mobile. They're stacking the deck. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.